Hello and welcome to Motorcycle News and welcome to the 2024 Husqvarna Svartpilen and Vitpilen range. So the 401 and 125 actually follow a brand new KTM 390 Duke and 125 Duke for 2024. Now, I've had a few interviews off camera with some of the guys responsible for these bikes, and whilst they can't tell me exactly how many parts are shared, they do tell me that, perhaps some of the parts that you see here are shared across both platforms. Now, I haven't got all of the information at the moment. We've had a presentation this morning and I've got a tiny little card with a few details on it, so I'm going to try my best to walk you around the bikes. But what you need to know really is this is the first major update for the Svartpilens and indeed the Vitpilens for 7 years. These bikes have been out for 7 years and this is the first major change. So the highlights include a new engine, a new trellis chassis, a new subframe, a new swing arm, new styling, new riding position. The bikes are now 20% longer as well. So just a few changes. And actually, according to the guys responsible for these machines, both the Svartpilens and the Vitpilens have around 90% of their parts changed from the previous model. So I'm going to start with the 401 first. Now, power is around about 43 horsepower on this bike. Now, obviously, that's to help it be A2 compliant without the need for any restriction. I haven't got any weights or anything like that, but 43 horsepower is going to make it, an engaging single-cylinder bike to ride. We've also got things like cornering ABS, and we've got sort of an easy shifting system as well. And then also, on top of that, we've got a new 5-inch full-colour TFT display. Now, having a quick look at that this morning reveals things like mobile phone connectivity. And what that connectivity is going to allow you to do is connect to your smartphone for things like turn-by-turn navigation. So this is a very, very clever bike. Now, before, what we actually had was a tiny circular LCD disc on the Husqvarnas. Whilst the 390s of the world got lovely TFT dashes, the Husqvarna always had the LCD. So now it's come of age, really. It's grown up and it's got much more technology on board now. And actually as well, if we stick with the technology, it's got cornering ABS as well. Both the 125 and the 401 make use of 6-axis IMU, like some of the most advanced bikes on the planet, for cornering ABS. So that's really, really impressive. You can also turn the ABS off at the back end as well if you want to do a bit of skid action to impress your mates when you're leaving college in the evenings. So sticking with the technology as well, we have got full LED lights as well that you can see here. I should add as well that some of these bits that you see on the bikes are optional extras. I'm not entirely sure on the standard spec. I can tell you there's a Remus can just down there. That's obviously an optional extra. There's a few other bits and bobs on here that are optional extras, but as a standard bike, they do look really, really cool. Anyway, back to the headlight. These headlights are, as you can see, circular designs. They're designed solely for these models, which is really, really impressive. And I think they look really, really smart. Now, away from the technology, I just want to talk a little bit more about the chassis as well. So as I said before, there's a new trellis frame and the bikes are slightly longer. But on top of that, they're actually lower as well. So seat height now is 820 millimetres, down from around about 840 mil. And basically that is down to customer feedback. The older bikes were quite tall, and when you're a new rider, even though these things are quite light, having a tall seat can be really, really intimidating. If you cast your mind back to when you were learning to ride, I know I certainly was quite afraid of even the skinniest of 125s, but then again, I'm not very tall. So having the 820 millimetre seat height is going to be really, really beneficial, I think. Now, sticking with the Svartpilen specifically, in the presentation they said that these bikes are kind of designed for if you want to, go down a little gravel lane whilst you're riding as well as being on the road. And as a result, they have got sort of semi-knobbly Pirelli Rally STR tyres. However, I wouldn't expect it to tackle a tough green lane. Obviously, we haven't got much of a bash plate on there, and they are 17-inch wheels. So, don't expect it to be, going down your favourite off-road routes. The suspension as well is also the same settings, same oil, same spring rate as the road-focused VIP Pelan that we're going to look at in a minute. So again, yeah, maybe the odd fire track or something like that, but I don't think you're going to be conquering Dakar aboard this machine. Other changes that you can see, we've got a normal sort of rear tail light section. Obviously, it used to wrap around the back wheel like one, but again, customer feedback meant that this has got a more traditional setup than previous. One of the things that does set the two bikes apart is the front forks. Now, they've both got 43mm upside down WP Apex systems, but you have got clickers on the 401 for, I want to say, compression and rebound. And although there are clickers on the 125 here, this is a pre-production model, and actually the finished design is going to be non-adjustable on the front end. But it's actually, it's going to be the same fork, but no adjustment on that 125. So that is the Svarт Pelans covered off fairly comprehensively. So let's go to another room now and check out the VIP Pelans while we're here. So we have seen the Svart Pelans, and now I've come to a different room to look at these. These are the VIP Pelans for 2024. So much like the Svart Pelans that I've already talked about, the VIP Pelans get around about 90% of their parts changed for 2024. Now, one of the most obvious things, just from looking at the bike, is the riding position. If you remember the first model of the VIP Pelan, it was a bit more of a cafe racer. It had, clip-on bars. It was a bit more over the front end. Whereas this, it's still got a sporting stance, but it's got more upright bars this time. And, I've spoken to the project managers behind this bike, and they said that was down to customer feedback, basically. When people were getting on bikes for the first time, sometimes they were finding that clip-on position a little bit too extreme, a little bit intimidating, and so they've just pared that back a little bit and made it a little bit more gentle to ride. And I don't think that's a problem. I think this looks like, a mini Super Naked. I think they look really, really cool in the flesh, especially the 401. I think with that really engaging Revvy single-cylinder engine, it's going to be great fun around a town or on a little country road. And actually, these bikes as well have got Michelin Power 6 tyres, really, really good tyres, only out this year. So again, I think it's going to be a real scream. Got loads and loads of ground clearance for a proper laugh. Now, like the Svart Pelans already that we've talked about, these have obviously got lean sensitive ABS, which is really impressive from that 6-axis IMU. You've also got the 5-inch TFT display on these as well, so you can expect things like your satellite navigation, and actually both the 401s as well have got some riding modes. So they've got 2 modes. They've also got traction control, and they've got the ability to deactivate the rear ABS if you want to do some cool skids. Now, it's nice to have that sort of stuff. I mean, what I will say is, for a bike that makes around 43 horsepower, I don't really think traction control is required. I don't think riding modes are required, being completely honest with you. But, it might help those people that are just taking a step up to an A2 licence, who maybe want that little comfort blanket on things like wet cobbled streets or manhole covers and stuff like that. But I think you're going to have to be doing quite well to get 43 horsepower single that out of shape for traction control to be required. But away from that, other things which are highlights on this bike include things like a shift assist. And there's also on the 401s a speed limiter as well, because these bikes have got a ride-by-wire throttle as well as on the Svart Pelan as well. So they haven't got cruise control, but you can set a limit on your speed if you're on an average speed camera zone or something like that, just to stop you, straying into the area of points when basically you get a bit bored on those mundane stretches of road. So like the 390 Duke and the 125 Duke that we've already seen ever so slightly earlier in this year, both of these bikes and the Svart Pelans as well have got a right side mounted rear shock now as well. Again, obviously from WP, being bikes produced by the Piera Group. Now, what this side-mounted shock allows as well, or helps to achieve, is a lower seat. So like the Svart Pelans, these have got an 820mm seat height. So as well as that more comfortable riding position, you've also got slightly lower seat position as well. And that's just going to help to attract more riders, basically, more people. It gets over that sort of initial intimidation and helps to attract more people to the brand. Now, both these bikes and the Svart Pelans as well are produced by Bajaj in India. These bikes are going to be built in India as well. Obviously, that's absolutely no problem with that, no bad thing at all. Obviously, Triumph's new single-cylinder 400 range are made by the same company, and I think more and more manufacturers are going to go down that route in the future as well. So these bikes are, aimed at that sort of market. They're also aimed at Europe and things like that for new riders, but these are also designed to be premium motorcycles for developing countries as well. And I think I think they're going to do just that. These look really, really premium. Obviously, as I said before, with the Svartbilens, these have got 43mm upside down WP suspension, with the 401 having adjustment at both the front and the rear end. So, you know, these are really complete, really, you know, considered, focused motorcycles. These aren't stepping stones, or they certainly don't feel like stepping stones. And I think they're going to appeal to quite a broad spread of people. I've obviously had a little bit of a sit while I'm here as well. And whilst the pegs are quite high for, you know, plenty of ground clearance, it's not extreme. And actually, there's quite a roomy seat now as well, thanks to a new subframe, which is a bolt-on, by the way. So, you know, that gives a little bit more room for the pillion as well. Obviously, you're not going to go on a European two-up tour on one of these, but if you want to give someone a lift across town or something like that, it's just going to make it that little bit more accessible. So unlike the Svartbilens, being a Vitpil and being a road-focused bike, these have got 5-spoke cast wheels, which look really, really cool, and obviously run on more road-biased tyres, as I said before. And both of these sets of models as well have plenty of options as well for you to choose from. So just looking at this one here, for example, this 401, it's got what basically looks like a set of winglets. And when I actually saw them first, I thought, you know, why have they bothered to put winglets on something with around 43 horsepower? But actually, that's a crash bar, and when you think about it, actually that's a really cool looking crash bar, and it just protrudes further than that radiator and allows you to protect that engine ever so slightly more. Now that engine is actually all new as well for 2024, ever so slightly bigger capacity in there as well to help it meet Euro 5. Other accessories as well are going to include things like luggage and more practical elements as well. I think things like heated grips. I've certainly seen that on the dash. Whether or not it comes as standard, I'm not entirely sure at this stage. There's also options for 2 different sets of mirrors as well. You can have traditional mirrors like this one, or you can have these droop down bar end mirrors as well, which just helps with that aggressive naked look. So I'm going to leave it there because I think that's more than enough. And obviously, you know, we're going to have a proper launch video of this bike coming very, very soon. So I hope you have enjoyed this. If you have, please do remember to give us a like and a subscribe whilst you're here. And I will see you on the next one. Cheers, guys.